Hi, and welcome to the Improvisors podcast. I'm Neil Thomas, and this is my co-host, Kevin James.
Thank you, Neil. On the Improvisers podcast, we chat to performers about their histories, their practices, their conceptualizations around practice, their aspirations, and their current projects. Who have we got on today, Neil?
Today, it gives us great pleasure to be in conversation with DEANNE Butterworth. DEANNE is a renowned choreographer, dancer, and teacher currently based in Melbourne. We talked to her from her studio in South Melbourne.
DeAnne spoke about improvisation within those contexts of dancing, choreographing, and teaching. And it was wonderful to have the opportunity to hear her reflect on what brings her life.
And a big and wonderful welcome to DeAnNE Butterworth. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with us this morning, DeAnNE.
Happy to be here. Hi, Kevin.
Great. So let's just jump in and tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into movement and dance, and up to what you're up to now.
Wow. Okay, that's a little question.
Yeah.
So I guess how did I get into movement and dance? I was sent off willingly to dance classes as a kid. I guess they were creative dance classes. And then I did ballet, and that was age 4, 5. This is in the hills of Perth. And I just kind of kept on going. So I did ballet, and I did jazz dance, and I did what was called modern dance at that time. Yeah, and that was all with the one ballet school, which was very close to where I lived. And I remember the first studio was actually at the teacher's home as well. And she had it was a 2-story house with a studio on the ground floor. And we danced around and we worked with chiffon scarves, and there was lots of creative movement. So yeah, that was my first experience of dancing. And I got into it, maybe it was at around, I think I'm not sure if my mum knew or I'd kind of shown a curiosity for movement, or maybe it was just that there was this opportunity to do an activity which was pretty close to home. And once I was sent, I really liked it. And yeah, I guess I just kind of kept on at that same dance school, the Irina Asatoff Ballet School, until I was 15 or so.
Tell me about Irina Vasatov.
Asatoff, yeah. So she was also called Mrs. Norris. So she started a dance school, which I guess when I started there, it was she had her home studio, and then she also hired a hall at the local recreation centre. And so I would go in the early days, be dropped off at her. I remember she had a really, really steep driveway up the hill. And so I'd be dropped off there. And I don't know, she was like quite short, she was gentle, she was a Russian lady who'd been in the West Australian Ballet Company, and she loved dance and she loved teaching dance. And I remember her being quite happy and could be not stern, but serious about it as well. But I think she really loved teaching as well. So, and I liked it. Like, I obviously liked it from quite a young age, but I have distinct memories of these kind of chiffon scarves that had a little bit of crunchiness in it, or they weren't like beautiful softness. They had a stiffness, and they were like sheer yellow, blue. Some had a bit of glitter, and you'd do this dance at the end, and she'd have these round, bouncy balls as well. And I guess it was about exercise and coordination and all of that kind of stuff that kids are learning at a young age. But yeah, she really fostered this sense of creativity, and I think the whole thing was about enjoyment of dance. That was a really important thing for her. Like, I'd get pretty stressed out doing like I love dancing, but I got really nervous doing it. And I hated doing exams, even though I worked really hard in them. And I remember on one report she wrote, we dance because it makes us happy. And I really, yeah, I mean, even though sometimes I'd like cried during an exam, but I guess it was, I essentially loved it. That was the crux of it. I really loved it. And I kept on going. And I guess I did more ballet. I did modern dance. I did a concert every year, but it wasn't like a showy, super theatrical. It was at the local government high school stage. So all the parents would come and we'd work really hard, but it wasn't like a Stedford vibes, how it might be now. It was more like we're just showing our friends and family what we've been working on. Yeah. But she made a ballet called The Spider Orchid as well, which was, I was dressed as a kangaroo paw. And it was quite beautiful. It was like the native flora of the area. So, and then after that, there was a seriousness, a bit more serious in terms of my studies in dance. And I kept going in early high school, but I was also a bit embarrassed by it. So I'd tell people that I was going off to my karate practice rather than dance, because I felt like karate was more of a thing that people could, like peers wouldn't judge me so much about doing ballet. And then I wasn't going to karate. I was going off to my dance class. But then, so I'd do that, probably 4 days a week after school and a Saturday morning. And then I got into the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts in this, it was called Certificate of Dance, but it was like an after-school program, 4 nights a week and a Saturday morning. I think a Saturday as well. And then from there, I got into the BA course at the Australian Academy of Performing Arts. Finished that, got out of living in Perth, moved here. Yeah. So that's essentially, I guess, the early part in informal studies into more formal studies. And in my, so this is early 90s, 91, 92, 93 is when I was at WAPA full time. And with some very amazing teachers there. And I guess predominantly, we studied Cunningham technique and Graham technique, and then kinesiology, composition, improvisation, and ballet. And my ballet teacher was Lucette Alders, who was incredible. Like, she knew that I didn't want to be a ballerina, but so all of her classes were catered for kind of looking at a career in contemporary dance. But around that time, I loved going to the library, like loved the library. And so this is, pretty pre-internet, really. Like, internet was around, but it wasn't a tool for research. So I'd go and find writings on dance, journals in the library. And then I'd order the back copies from Melbourne and get them sent over to me. And then, listen to Meredith Monk cassettes in the library and was exposed to all this incredible music. So I guess I was researching the dance magazines I had at the library and the dance books, and also I guess also all the music that was by the people who were working with, I guess, predominantly the New York-based postmodern dancers or artists of the time. Yeah. And fast forward to now, I don't know. So what is that, 30-something years of working in dance.
30-something years, and here you are in Melbourne. Um, it would be great to know something of your journey over those 30-something years, and also particularly where improvisation sort of entered or became integral or of interest to your practice. And this is a big question, I suppose, in talking about sort of choreographic work and improvisation. But it'd be good to have you sort of wander in and around the work that you've done, the work that you're currently interested in, and what improvisation might well have meant or currently mean to you.
Mm. Okay. Improvisation. Like, if you were to say, what is it? I would come up with a bad definition. Like, I don't know what it is. And which is fascinating. Like, when I was thinking this morning, riding my bike here on the Improvisers podcast, I kept on thinking, oh, maybe the Improvisers podcast, it's you two. It's the podcast of the Improvisers. And I do like use improvisation in my practice for sure. And I think in some ways I always have. And it depends on the circumstance and it depends on the choreographer that I'm working with or the work that I'm doing by myself, or if it's a collaboration with someone else. And so I guess, that improvisation, there's different ways of thinking about the purpose of it, or, I might call something an improvisation within someone else's structure, but they framed it in such a way that it's their material in a way, even though it's coming from my body, but it's like they've set up the circumstance, they've set up the parameters, they've set up an idea. Therefore, is that actually improvisation? Like sometimes I question, even with very set material choreography that you do that's repeatable, like perhaps in some ways that's an improvisation. It's like, so set choreography could be quite set, but what are you thinking about each time you kind of repeat it? Like maybe it's actually, it's not exactly the same because you're not the same person, you're not the robot as you're doing it. So with improvisation, I mean, I guess if I was to later on today, move in this studio and I mean, I feel like it has to have not a purpose, but I feel like it has to, it's not necessarily about generating movement, perhaps, even though it does do that, but I don't know if that's the purpose. I think there's a lot about listening to impulse and just listen to what the impulse is and then see what arises. And maybe it's something about a sense of abandonment and freedom within moving. Yeah.
Deanne, I think that certainly on this podcast, we're not trying to lock improvisation into a particular definition or contain it or frame something about the specialness of it. We're really interested in what it means to each person and how it lives
Yeah.
in each person's practice, and it's wonderful to hear you start to articulate improvisation within your practice and within more potentially structured or scaffolded works so it'd be great to hear a little bit more about what that means to you.
Well, I guess if I think to my most recent thing that I've been working on, it's a work in development, which is sort of taken some time to do, but oddly, it's actually something where there's 3 people involved, and it is in I would, for want of a better word, I'd say unison. And I know this is, yeah, so it seems funny talking about a potentially a unison work here, but I think it's the result of something where I thought I was going to do something else, but I was led back to this point of making something which is an attempt to work together with two other people. And I guess, you know, in all of my work, I've always been in the work. And that's still really important to me, to not necessarily make for other performers, but to make for myself and for the other people involved. And so, yeah, I was recently making a work, and something happened where I had an injury the second week of that work. And I was like, okay, let's see how I can keep going with the work. And, you know, often I would use improvisation in a practice, which might be about seeing how it's almost like using improvisation more as a conversation between people to kind of go how, like we might start off improvising, we might kind of use it as a way to find connection between one another, to like maybe retrace particular pathways or relationships, spatial relationships. So it's, instead of like planning something and trying things out, it's like, let's do this. These are the parameters. We'll do it for kind of 15 minutes or so, and then see what's sort of revealed. And maybe some of those things we might sort of have a sense of retaining, or we might just like move on and talk about something else or move into other material. But during this last period of working, I couldn't do that because I couldn't weight bear on one leg. So it meant that there was no sense of freedom, no sense of abandonment, no sense of like finding a way of working with the two other dancers in the space in an improvising sort of way. And in terms of energy, it wasn't like, I guess I can be quite, I like things which are quite durational or quite energetic in some ways. And so that wasn't available. So then I guess I kept making the work, even though I couldn't, my body was different. But it was almost like I guess it still was like working with a sense of impulse, but it was like this time span. Instead of kind of going, the impulse goes this long, it was like the impulse goes for that length of time, and then I have to like remember that, grab it, teach it. So it was a very different trajectory. It was almost like really linear sort of way of making, there's that, then there's that, then there's that. It's like it was accumulation of material over 7 weeks, then an extra week last week. And that, yeah, it was like, let's have these short little impulses of, okay, I've got that. That's like 3 seconds of stuff. And it's not this long sense of feeling freedom. And that really, I felt freedom for like 2 or 3 seconds, you know? So yeah, it was a fascinating process because it meant that I made something vastly different to what I would normally make. And it surprisingly turned into something which is about 3 people attempting to do the same material and a lot of material in a short amount of time. Like over a 20-minute period, it's like, it's just almost like never ending. It doesn't, and the idea of like, don't repeat anything within this time frame. So that was it was an unexpected result of something which was at first, oh God, I can't walk on my foot. But actually, how do you keep going? You're a dancer. How do you keep going in this time that you have available to you with working with two other people. And yeah, that's how that sort of panned out. And it's not necessarily a finished piece, and I don't know what will happen in the next kind of bit of time when, as my foot slowly heals, how will that kind of sense of freedom infiltrate the work again, you know?
Reading a little bit of the bio, there's a little quote here that I think might be interesting to talk around. You're preoccupied with the investigation of movement and how it relates to the physical, emotional, and sonic space in which it's located. And I'm looking further down the list of incredible long list of things that you have done. And quite a few of them, it strikes me, are in non-traditional spaces. I think that's true in galleries, in particular in galleries. And I'm wondering if you could talk around improvisation and movement and in response to space, physical space.
I mean, I guess I think of sound as a physical kind of space as well, like how it affects the space that you're in, like what the sound waves, how they physically affect the space that you're in. And I guess how did I get into that? Weirdly, I got into that through watching a drummer drum and through noticing the movements of the drummer and seeing how physical they were within their as they did the kind of actions to make the sound, how much they had to move, and the fact that when they contacted the mallet or the drumstick against the drum, that was the changed moment. So they're moving, but then that's the change moment. That's the sound you hear, but then also that affects the physical. That is a physical sound wave through space. So I guess there's that aspect of like the physical space, but also I guess I feel like this space that I'm in now, it's a ground level space. It's got 1, 2, 3 windows. There's sun that often comes in. If I open the window, I'm at ground level, like in a fairly inner city suburban area where people walk by, where they can look in. There's like nursing homes around. There's older people walking. There's kids. It's the first time I guess I've been in a studio where it's not elevated or it has windows at ground level. So I feel like those things can't help but influence what you make or have an effect on these, I guess, layers of stuff that that are evident, in the upstairs space at Temperance Hall. Like, I guess I've worked there with different choreographers over time, and it's like I walk into that space and it's almost like there's ghosts from another time. Not ghosts, everyone's still working, but it's like, oh, there's that work, there's that first development of this work that happened up there, or that's when I worked with another dancer and we made this and then we did a showing. It's like, oh gosh, that space. And not all spaces necessarily have that, but I think like those emotional memories of a space or a place, or even, I guess, even in an outdoor, say for example, an M Pavilion, it's like we might relate to the space there, but then also that site has had multiple pavilions on it. So therefore, perhaps relating to different experiences of being within that, located at that place, but with a different architectural installation. or even like, what was it like when it was really hot in 2019 or 18? Joe Lloyd and I did a piece called All Our Dreams Come True. And it was boiling hot, like 42 degrees. And we did a 2 or 3 hour work there. And it was, you know, that very environment would just completely influence the choices you make together in the improvisation.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about the word improvisation. If we take away the sort of singularity of it, and as you're talking, then I'm sort of thinking there's something about a process where we're available and responsive to really what's emerging circumstantially and experientially, and for us to remain open to open and available to what's emerging in and around, and we're being fashioned by that. We're fashioning that. It's a generative process. And if improvisation is really availability to what is emerging and making choices and decisions around, or releasing whatever, it's I guess it takes it away from the singularity of somebody is an improviser or not, and it talks more in general about, I guess, availability and creative processes. And it strikes me that that's a domain in which you are constantly and maybe permanently engaged as an artist in your particular way, where choreography and outcomes and forming pieces is integral. And yet being available, as you said, to be affected by the immediate circumstance, I guess is inherent.
Mm. Yeah, I guess there's an openness. There's a magic when improvisation, or even you're doing, and whether or not the performance is improvised, or it sort of has aspects of improvisation within it, or there's aspects of improvisation in how the choreography was formed or the movement was generated. But essentially, it's like an openness to a situation. And, it's sort of indescribable in a way. Like, when it's working, when your head goes somewhere else, and something about the way you connect with other people that are in the space with you, or I don't know if it's the audience as well, but something about you're connecting with the time that you're in, and when it feels more alive than when it's movement, but it's like, what are you doing? Like, when it feels like it's filler, like when it feels like it's like, okay, just stop for a moment and begin it again and see where you are. Like, you don't have to move right now. Like, it's yeah. And in some ways, how do you prepare for that? I'm not sure. And I think it's I certainly know there's times when I'm improvising and it's like, it doesn't feel real. Like and of course it's happening, it's in real time, but there's something about the attention, or the investment, or the way your body might be feeling, where it doesn't make it feel like it's a real moment. And it feels like you can kind of feel it in your body when something's kind of going, like it feels like there's a connection. I don't know. So maybe it's about openness and connection, whether or not it's with just as a singular person working, or if it's between other people working together. And it depends also on, like, if you're working with someone you've got a long working history with, that you can almost, there's that beautiful moment of going, I think I know what they're going to do. No, they didn't do that. Oh, look, we're just having, it's like we're having conversation now about the thing that we don't need to actually talk about because it's all happening. And those beautiful moments where you can kind of, it's the shortcut someone, I was in the car with someone the other night, and they said, oh, I don't know the secret squirrel routes in this area. And it's like, oh, sometimes maybe that's what improvisation, it's like the shortcut to get, you know, to get to the place of magic.
Wow, I love that.
I just wanted to ask a fairly open-ended question, actually.
Yeah.
Not directly related to improvisation, but related to art making. I wonder what art making is for you in terms of this time in your life, as an artist. What is it that it means to you, and what continues to motivate you?
Well, what is it to me? It's about I guess, finding the things I haven't done or said yet that I still want to. And so, I mean, I guess I've had a career, you know, 30, I guess 1995 was the first kind of professional engagement I had. Yeah, so it's actually only 30 years. Is that right? Is that right? No, the maths, it's right. So, yes, yeah. So, you know, I was performing a lot with other people and I guess making a bit, but then also I sort of stopped making a bit and then went back to more performing. And I guess, you know, I never tick that established box. I'm always like ticking the mid-career box. Like I'm totally mid-career, you know, I don't think of myself as an established choreographer. And I guess the reason for art making is because I'm still curious about dancing and making work and how I can do that. You know, like the different networks that you can like form or move away from, or yeah, how do you keep on? I mean, it's always a question, how do you keep on doing it? And I don't know, at the moment I think I get inspired by emerging artists as well, you know, like that's really cool. So yeah, I guess, but why make art? Like, why have I chosen that? It's, I guess, I still get excited about moving, about dancing and all the possibilities and like, you know, these images that come into your mind of like, oh, I really loved this, like a photo of a person I saw 30 years ago that still there's something about that movement that was caught in the moment, or looking at archival footage of different choreographers and or dancers, and yeah, something about being a part of a wave, not even a wave, it's just like, oh yeah, thing, you know, it's like being a part of a cycle of learning and giving and being curious, like either alone or with other people. And yeah.
Well, maybe that's a time and a point to bring this to an end and to allow you to get back to it at Temperance Hall. Get back to the parquet and the floorboards and the passers-by and the lovely weather we have today, some sun coming in.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Thank you so much, DEANNE. A beautiful unfolding of who you are and what you do. Thank you.
Thanks. It was very nice to chat to you both.
Yeah, DEANNE, thank you for taking the time. And I would suggest that people who watch this podcast read your bio. And we were just so keen to chat to you today, and so wanting to acknowledge your very substantial history of practice and the many places and persons with whom you've worked and collaborated, and where you've presented over such a substantial period of time. And it's wonderful to hear the freshness in you in your approach now after, as you said, 30 or 30 plus years, and here you are still sounding really fresh and excited and committed to the process of being a dance artist. It's wonderful to chat to you.
Thank you, you too.